Welcome.
Thank you.
Jim Jonyo is an economist at Riara Delta Limited, and we have Dr. Mwenda Makadhimo, who is a land valuer as well as an expert. Maybe I'll give you a few seconds to just introduce what you do exactly.
Thank you very much. My name is Mwenda Makadhimo. I'm a land economist. I am a registered valuer and also a property manager, and also I do property management and land management consultancy.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. So good morning, everyone. My name is Jim Jonyo, an economist by profession. I work for Riara Delta Limited as a consultant, as also assistant sales manager, as well as assistant operation manager. Yeah.
Okay. Eliud?
Yeah, my name is Eliud Ngugi. I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya and a registered member of the Law Society of Kenya. I practice and run a law firm where we deal majorly with real estate and property issues.
Yes. Great. And even as we start, Eliud, we're looking at the headlines of the newspapers this morning. There's a story there on thousands of people are staring at evictions in the Njiro and also Masai Mau evictions. This is not a first in the recent days. So what has brought us here?
I think what has brought us here is, first of all, lack of doing due diligence before purchasing land. A lot of us will go into land buying processes where, one, you don't use land valuers and lawyers, you don't use professionals to advise you in the process. Number two, you don't put you in time to actually remember that land is emotive and that the process of buying property is a process. It's not an immediate thing that you do and within a day process out a document. Number three, that we do not have enough information that a title deed is the only document that you can use to claim ownership of land. And that's how we've gotten ourselves here.
Jim?
Okay, so I think, just like the senior counsel has put it, from an economic perspective, I think the buyers, or rather the investors, they tend to avoid the expense, so they kind of want to use short ways of getting the properties. So in the process, they forget that sometimes the shortest route is the wrong route to follow. So at the end, you find that they want to use cheap ways to acquire the goods, or I mean the property, but then they refuse that, they forget that there's due diligence, that you need to know, well, I'm buying this property, I need a lawyer, I need a land valuer, I need, I need all the documents that are required for me to get the land. So they tend to skip the process so that at least they can acquire the property at a minimum expense. But then later, they now have to, they're now being subjected to these particular expenses that they wanted to avoid.
Makadhimo, even as a land valuer, what is it that you look out for in order to advise someone to actually get that piece of land and even build there?
Well, I want to look at it broadly. There are several issues that one has to look at. First, if you have to invest in real estate, you have to look at four issues. One, the legal permissibility of the property that you're dealing with. Is it, are the rights proper? Are the interests proper? Are they well registered? Are they valid? That's the legal side. Then you have to look at the physical side. Is the place where you're building a sound ground? Is it marshy? Is it forest? Is it, is it rock? Is it good for building? The next aspect you have to look at is the economic aspect. Is it financially viable or feasible for you to invest in that property? Will you get the returns or the utility that you're looking for? And then the last is the environmental and social side. Is it socially acceptable, the kind of investment you want to do? Is it environmentally sustainable? Do you want to build in a swamp? So that's the frame with which we look at. But the problems that we are looking at now of demolitions and all that, other than falling into that, they are a signal to a a failed land administration system. A failed land administration system, one that is not guaranteeing or giving indemnity to the property investors and property owners. So there is a serious policy and administrative issue to be dealt with by government.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's an interesting point you've raised. Eliud, as a lawyer, for example, you're representing someone when he or she is buying a land. And then this, for instance, now the case of the Njiru land farmer, these people argue that at the end of the lease of the former MP for Sarahe, Gerishon Kirima, that is when they acquired the land then. How then do you deal with such a case when now it comes to a time when they're now, their properties are being demolished because that land initially belonged to Njiru?
Well, there are two angles to look at it. The case of Njiru Gerishon Estate has to deal with adverse possession, where the law allows you, if you have been on continuous open use of land for 12 years without any interruption, then you can lay a claim on land. So the question would be, can they prove that they have been continuously and openly, they did not force themselves, openly on this piece of land? I've had a look at a few issues about that case, and the family had a butchery and they had activity. So this may not be right. And so from the side of the owners of this land who are in fear, or they have actually gotten these court orders, one, we have a judicial system that allows the right to be heard. And so when you're unhappy with the decision of a court, you can always appeal that decision and actually raise issues that were not properly looked into. And you give this chance to another decision maker, who is the Court of Appeal. They can actually go to the Court of Appeal, look through, and this is claiming that they were actually there for 12 years. They need to bring evidence that they were actually on this land without any interruption. That for those 12 years, there was nobody who raised these issues, but it would be a very difficult situation to actually go through. But they have a chance in the Court of Appeal to actually claim and actually seek the audience of other judges who are going to look again at the evidence that was presented earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When you look at the case of EAPCC, close to the similar one, and as a lawyer representing someone and buying a land, you see there were those all billboards written, "Buyer beware, this land is in possession of someone." What do you advise your client to, or you just go ahead and tell them you can build, it's okay?
No, and my colleagues here will agree with me, there's a process. So the first thing you need to do when you're interested in land is to first of all conduct a search on that piece of land to verify who is the actual owner of that land. If the agent is the agent who is selling that land, the actual owner. So you do a company search, find out whether the company, if it's a company selling, is registered, is the actual owner of that land. If it's an individual, from the search result, you'll be able to see who the actual owner is. Number two, there's historical search, whereby you go through the history of this property. You will need to find out what is the story behind it. And a land search will be able to show you that, because we have green cards at land registries which give you the history, chronology of land ownership from way before when the government gave that land to the point where you are purchasing that land. So that historical search will assist you. There's also, you should also be able to do a search at the courts. So when you use a professional, for example, go to a lawyer, you'll be able to find out, is this property in dispute? Is it in court? Are there succession cases that may be inhibiting anyone from proceeding to buy this property? Is there a caution that has stopped the purchase of this land? Maybe there's a third or fourth interested party who had also been sold this piece of property, and they had actually gone to the land registry and closed or locked this land and said, no, nobody should buy this property until my issue is first of all dealt with. And so those are the benefits. There's the Ndongo report, which shows you whether this is one of the grabbed properties in the Moi era. There's a Ndongo report that shows pieces of land that have a red flag that you should not actually look or you should not engage in purchasing. So due diligence is very important, and members at EAPCC would have been able to actually figure out whether this property was okay for purchase.
Mm-hmm. And Makadhimu, even as he mentions concerning doing the due diligence, nowadays we're living in a digital era, and there's so many cases of forgery of documents and also manipulating the information that we have on the internet. So when someone, for example, you're looking for land for someone, when someone buys that land now and then comes to realize, oh, this was actually fraudulently acquired, what do they do then?
Well, before we get to when they have got into trouble, prevention is better than cure. The due diligence that we are talking about has to be one that is triangulated because of the problems of land administration that we have. The systems are manual, some of them have been infiltrated, and some records sometimes are manipulated, the manual ones. Sometimes you can do a search today and it is stage managed. We have had such problems. So from a governance point, first of all, the government has to deal with matter of land information system properly so that the surveying records are accurate, the registry records, the cadastral records are accurate so that they can be trusted by people. And what you get from a registrar becomes the real authority, and that no one can be able to forge what a registrar issues. Like now the searches are stamped by a land registrar. But if you find there are forgeries of the signatures of the land registrar, then you start seeing risks right from the system. So we need to sort them right from the system. Even the court registry, it also has been manual. It's now that is being automated, and sometimes you can search for a file even in the court and not find, or a file in the lands registry and not find. So from a governance point, that needs to be secure. Now, on let's talk about the Njiru or the Njiru case. All those buildings, I'm assuming they have been approved by the Nairobi County government.
Yes.
So when people are putting in applications for approval, which documents were they using? Which documents was the city council relying upon to approve? The title numbers and all that. Were they checking whether the ones submitting for approval are the real owners? So there is a whole problem in the system because they were not just developing there. There is oversight. There are bodies of oversight. The planning authority have said, have they been seeing that development is happening there? Have they been wondering who the owners are there? Do they collect rates from that land? Who do they collect it from? So that's the problem that we have on the side of government that needs to be sorted, both local government and the national government. But on the side of the buyers or the developers, if you find yourself in such a situation, of course I know the courts you have the right to go to court, but then if you have not followed the right system, you will go and lay yourself bare there and you will not have evidence. At the end of the day, the decision will be adversarial. Sometimes you can negotiate with the owners and make good and cover the gaps. If real owners have been determined, then, and it belongs to Kirima, instead of staying in court forever, you can negotiate and engage with Kirima and see a middle ground of where you tell them, yeah, okay, when we came, maybe the value of the plots were this, we safeguard, and you get a middle ground. You can even engage in negotiations or even in mediation, other alternative ways, and safeguard the investment. Because if you go the adversarial full length, at one point, you may end up losing everything. It's, court systems sometimes are, winner take it all. Winner takes it all. So you can get a middle ground if you really know that you went into trouble. You can say, okay, let me see how I reduce how I make lemonade out of this lemon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great. Jim, as a real estate developer, what do you look out for when now trying to set up maybe a house for a client somewhere?
Well, I'll speak on behalf of the company. So Riara Delta Limited is a real estate company. We develop houses, specifically apartments, 1, 2 bedroom, and sometimes 3 and 4 bedrooms. So the first thing is, there's the demand in the market. You check what is on demand, because real estate is an investment. It is something that appreciates in value. So before coming up with the project, you must understand where do we see that the demand will be high for 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom. And because someone is going to put all his money there and expecting that after a certain period of time, he or she will get the return back. So someone will not come and buy a house or a property whereby the demand is very low. So first thing we check, like my fellows have said, the first thing they look at the location. When they find the location, of course, they'll do their due diligence and find if the land is well and the chronological ownership is well situated, and they understand the real owners of the land. So after that, they develop the property. But let me say something. Let me just maybe chip in. In real estate, you don't be in a hurry to get your money back, because there's a rule that states that in real estate, the monthly expected income should be equal to 1% of that purchase price. What I mean here is that you should realize your money back after a period of not more than 10 years. So if you buy a house at 12 million, what you expect at the end of upon completion, so that you can collect a monthly rental income, should be 120,000, because that is 1% of 12 million. So if this one can come, then you'll really be able to see that you are going to get your money back. So these are also things we consider. See that Kileleshwa, Kilimani, Lavington, where you see whereby, there are amenities that even if someone comes to rent, they'll be easy to access to these amenities. So that is what we really look first, what the market demands, then what the clients want, and actually what really is in demand in the market. So basically, you look at the client's need before your need first, because what you need, you develop to sell, because it's a business. And also client will wish to follow you in the next project. So if you give them a good project, then the next project will also follow you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great. And Eliud, do you think these issues of land disputes is a case of broken systems over time?
Yes, very, very right. We have broken systems. And most of it would be where one, for example, from the back end of our land registries, you find that corruption, majorly, that people are able to change documentation. And so if someone is interested in a property or in a piece of land which has been vacant and not any use, the people behind the scenes may actually be able to change their green cards at the registry. So you may be an innocent purchaser who is going to buy this property. You conduct your search. You're a full owner of a piece of land, and you're selling your land. And you'll be shocked when you're in the process of selling your land that when you go to the land registry and you're trying to do your search, you cannot get the results, because somebody went and plucked out that green card, which is a record that shows the land ownership. And so in the process, then you're not able to purchase this land. The other way is we have these powerful people who come and move into your property, and they may force you out of your own piece of land, because it's a broken system, and they can't build or put a fence or put a wall because you have not been utilizing that piece of land. And while they do that, when you try to come to our judicial system to seek for audience, they may also cripple down that system. The process slows down. You're in court for many years. the judges are either not sitting on that day. And so our systems are somehow broken and they need to be fixed. We need to have our systems fixed, and I'm glad that we have come up with a system called Avisasa that allows the digitization of land buying processes, where all the files are in the process of being converted and put in the system, and now you are able to actually, you as a seller or a landowner, you are able to get a notification whenever somebody messes up with or tries to log into your account. And only you as a property owner or your advocate is actually able to actually do any transaction on the system. So there are no middlemen around able to come in if they are not professionals. So we have been able to fix a bit of it, but our systems still need some work.
Interesting. And even speaking of the digitization of the whole land issue, when we speak of rural areas, for example, let's even look at Meru. And there's so many lands, people who own lands from ancestral lands. Most of them, they have no title deeds. And then now comes probably the government wants to build a road across your land that is touching on your land. In that case, what do those people do now? There's no documentation of ownership of that land, but you know it's yours. How can you defend yourself when it's taken?
Well, the question of compulsory acquisition, Article 40 of the Constitution guarantees the property rights, and it guarantees that no one's property will be taken arbitrarily, and even by the state. If the state needs it for public purpose or public good, then they have to compensate you in a just and prompt, and they have to give full compensation. So it doesn't mean the land has to be registered, even unregistered. You notice that there is community land that is more than 60% of the land in Kenya that is unregistered. And the land that is going through the process of adjudication and that has not been registered, there are processes. First of all, there is the unregistered land is under the trust of the county government. And also, the land that is going through adjudication, there is numbers that have been used, there are committees that are there. So there's a way of ascertaining that these are your rights. So if the people coming to assess the land, the valuers and the surveyors from the National Land Commission, they should be able to capture your interest and have it valued. And if they don't do that, there are statutory systems and legal systems under the Land Act of making sure that you can say, this is my land, and you can put a claim to your customary rights, and you can justify. Even if it's not yours and you have been occupying it in good faith, the government also has discretion to compensate you if they think you're an occupant in good faith and you have not been engaging in anything that is negative or fraudulent. So. And then, of course, there are safeguards, social safeguards. A government is not there to make its people poor. So livelihoods and the businesses there and the houses there, there's a duty of care on the part of the state to also make sure it doesn't destroy people's livelihoods. So that's why I'm a bit sad to see some of the investments being destroyed by way of demolition and without due care. And I think the government, if I go back to where we were, the government cannot run away from fixing this problem, especially on the base. Investors in real estate require guarantees, and that guarantee, that indemnity can only be given by the state. And any state prospers economically if it has a stable property system that is guaranteed. Ours is now infiltrated, it's not supporting the modern system. So there is need for serious reforms and serious investment in guaranteeing the property rights in Kenya, in making sure that whatever is in the registry can stand the test of time and the test of law. Whatever is in the survey office can stand the test of time and the test of law. Whatever is taken to the bank as collateral or for loan and mortgage can be properly guaranteed, and that it is a real security that can be trusted. That is a challenge to the state. But of course, the buyers also have, and the other people in the chain have their share of what they need to do.
Great. And even as we come back after the break, we'll be talking about what now happens in a case where you're given a time to vacate. For example, in the Njiru issue, I understand they're given up to December. So what happens then in January? We see the government starting to demolish houses that were in that land. But let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be back with more. Back, and thank you for keeping it Morning Cafe. And of course, you can keep on interacting with us at TV47 News on X, at TV47 Kenya. On Facebook, the hashtag is Morning Cafe. And even before we went for the break, Eliud was speaking about this whole issue of buyer beware concerning these lands. Sometimes, now for instance, the case of the Njiru land, these people have been given a notice of, this is 2 or 3 months. 2 months. Come December, you'll see people are still there. So when these demolitions happen, who do you blame then?
Well, a court order is not a request, it's an order. So if it's a court order ordering the person to actually vacate from a piece of land, then you have to obey that court order or go back to court and file what I had said earlier, an appeal, or maybe an application, an injunction, another injunction to actually, because the case has been finalized, you can only go for an appeal and actually put in an application for an injunction to stop any demolitions by the government. So I don't foresee a situation whereby in December there will be any demolitions. These are investments that have been made onto this property. And as Daktari has said here, there's a chance for out-of-court settlement. Under Article 159 of our Constitution, it allows for alternative dispute resolution. These parties who may have been genuine owners who went and put down their millions of shillings on these 1,000 acres have a chance to go to the estate of Kirima and ask the family to actually consider a compensation at the current market price. And probably once they have that, they will have to go back to court and register this, because there's already a court order in place that the estate can actually enforce and actually give it to the local OCS and give it to guys to come and actually demolish these houses. So it's important to know that there's a chance for them to actually go for ADR or go for an appeal, whereby they will try and say that Justice Okongo did not consider some of their evidence, that there's always there's something that he missed out on that he actually needs to look at. So I do not foresee in December another dramatic demolition process happening in this country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jim, in these cases, people would argue now, who do you blame between the land grabber and the builder?
Just like my fellow economist said, you don't blame anyone, because first and foremost, the buyers, they came genuinely. They knew that the land had a title deed, and perhaps, let me give them the benefit of doubt, they did their due diligence. Their due diligence came out positive. So in this case, you don't blame the land buyers, because these are very innocent investors. On the other hand, I also blame them because maybe their due diligence was not inclusive of, checking the chronological of the land owners, maybe the previous owners of the land, maybe the previous use of the land. I mean, they did not take into account the previous story of this land. So in one way, I think they also did their own mistake because they tried to avoid the expense so that at least they can acquire the property as fast as possible. And again, the other thing, I feel like the government, if they want to do the demolition, I think they're going to go against the rule. The government is supposed to protect its people. And if at all will not have an outside court solution, the government should give a period of time before vacation. I think 2 months is a very short time for people to vacate, especially people with big families. It's very traumatizing. And the other thing, if that is not possible, then the government should now provide for, the well-being of these people who are being evacuated. Like, the government should now give them a temporary place, maybe a place to stay, if it's possible, a place to stay as they arrange themselves financially to get somewhere now where they can stay permanently. Because ideally, the government should not make its people to suffer, regardless of whatever is happening. Yeah.
Thank you, great. And even as we talk of the government that we expect to protect us, most of these land cases, they're politicized. And even when we look at them, word on the street would say most of this land is owned by politicians. So how then do they separate these issues, the land matters and politics of the day?
Well, I think for an investor, you must look at your investment not in terms of politics. If you're depending on politics to safeguard your investment, then you have the wrong premise. Your investment must run through political seasons, political times, and it's one, for me, that you need to do in a rational manner. First of all, we talked of due diligence at the beginning. Don't depend on one system because of the weaknesses. Have multiple professionals assist you, and professionals that know how to tell genuine documents and that can cross-check. For instance, if you use registered valuers, registered surveyors, advocates who are properly certified by LSK, and you also use registered planners. If you use this, you'll be able to check. For instance, if you checked at the land registry, the National Land Registry for the national government, then you'll also be able to check at the county government to see if this property, who pays the rates, what is the history, because somebody cannot change all the systems, okay? And then the surveyor would be able to go to the Survey of Kenya and check, are there survey plans? What has been the survey processes? Which surveyors have handled? And then beyond the professionals, you also have to talk to the neighbors. The community, the ground knows. If you talk to the people who have developed, there are even the people doing business around. They will be able to tell you, tunasikianga hii shamba ni ya Kirima, lakini watu wamejenga hapa. So that word, you can't ignore it. And then after that, involve professionals through the process. Don't get shortcut. Whatever is cheap is very expensive. People think professionals are expensive. Now look at demolitions and losing millions. What is more expensive? And then beware of quacks. There are so many quacks in this town, pretending to be surveyors, pretending to be valuers, pretending to be advocates. The other day you saw quacks being arrested everywhere. Please check with the registration bodies to ensure that the person you're dealing with is well trained, is well grounded, and they can indemnify you. If a professional like myself does wrong, you can go to the board to seek the registration. And again, the professionals are required to take indemnity covers, insurance boards against their action. But if you deal with a quack, they finish with you, they get the money, and they are gone. And then beware of people who give you documents that are not government documents. They tell you a share is a share of a company, share certificate is a title. It is not a title. Please be advised. It is not a title. A share certificate gives you, confirms that you are a shareholder in a company. You're not an owner of a property. Ownership. So you wonder how all these people have been taken for a ride for this long. Then surveillance. Government has to have proper surveillance systems. If they realize that there are informal settlement coming up or developments without approval, they should be publicized, and this information should be known so that people know this neighborhood is not formal, this neighborhood has a case, so that people can then take care. And don't ignore any adverse information. If you see a notice of buyer beware in the newspaper or anywhere, take that notice very, very, very seriously. I know there is a challenge in housing. I think some of these problems are happening because the housing systems have not been delivering. So people are desperate to own a home. They are desperate to be somewhere. But if there is a proper plan that ensures that the housing, land for housing, is well serviced, that is provided by government, that is provided even by private developers, and it's certified and it's clear, then people will go to those ones that are secure. But if there is none, people will scramble for any plot that is there and run there. So we have a big agenda ahead, both for government, for developers, and for professionals. And also, I think people need a lot of public education. Yes. Because people don't know. People don't know. They just think because they have seen their neighbor there, it's okay. They have seen another person develop there, it's okay. They have seen a church there and a school, they think it's confirmation that that is good ground. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you. Delio would feel attacked because of the beard gang. Yeah, and I would ask, are there any legal frameworks that have been put in place to safeguard people from these issues of land grabbing happening? And also, is this information out to the public? Like, would people know where can I find where these lands have been registered before even building there?
Yeah, we have safeguarded. We have structures in place, and again, I think we need to emphasize on the issue about professionals. I'm an advocate. I went to school and spent so much time. I went under pupillage, studied under somebody, and then I had to actually sit the bar and have the approval of, and signing of a petition by the Chief Justice. This is a process that I had to go through to be able to be where I am as an advocate. Same for the valuers, same for the surveyors. There's need to use these professionals because these professionals, when we went to school, we were taught, we were shown, this is where you get this information, this is what you need to do. And number 3, you are responsible. I am responsible if I sit down and prepare a sale agreement as an advocate for you. I am responsible of what I certify to be in that document. And so when a land seller comes to you with a prepared sale agreement and they tell you, no, use our lawyer. Actually, we have a template here. We don't even need lawyers. It's an agreement you're buying. Yeah, you understand what a sale agreement is about. It's a seller and buyer, and this is a consideration. And you end up signing that document. You end up getting into trouble because The professionals know what to look out for. We know about the foreseen circumstances that we are going to look at in case of a sale going wrong. These are your, this is what you're going to do. So you're not left in a limbo where you go to court and the court looks at the document and tells you, we cannot help you. You signed this document, we can't help you. And so it's important to use professionals. This information, we're here today to share this information. We now have internet in Kenya. We have a very progressed country. You're able to search the professional that you are working with. If it's a surveyor, they have their board, which has a website. If it's a valuer, they have their board. If it's a lawyer, we have our website. You just enter my name and you'll find that I am actually there. Number two, you've asked me where to find this, whether they have mechanisms to safeguard land selling processes. Number two, the registries. When our land laws give so much authority to registrars of land, that they are responsible of what they issue to you, the information they give to you. So when you do a search, and you don't use a third party, you don't use an agent, either go to the land registry yourself or send your professional, and once they make that application, the registrar, as they sign it, there's a number they indicate there. If they tell you that this land has no encumbrance or has no issue, there is no mortgage, there is no loan attached to this title deed, or there is no caution on this title, then if you end up finding the opposite, you find that there was actually a caveat or a caution registered on this property, you are able to take this registrar to court and actually bring them to answer some of these questions. And so we have these mechanisms in place and use professionals. We'll emphasize use professionals to make sure that you protect yourself, you protect your money and your interest.
Mm-hmm. Great. And Jim, from a real estate perspective, of late, Dr. Ria mentioned one of the things to consider when building somewhere is the physical condition of that place. Lately, we've been seeing houses zinabomoka after some time when it rains, yeah? And then we also see some very funny structures, like the case of Zimmerman, that house, it's like an apartment, yes, then upside, on the upper side, it's like a penthouse. Why are we seeing these cases now? Are you not, are people just building for the sake of building them?
Well, starting with the Zimmerman case, I think that is what we call, you're looking for your own house at the same time commercial property within a fixed land. So see, that woman, the owner of that particular apartment, she had two things in mind. I wanted a place to stay. Also, she wanted a place for commercial properties. So what she did commercial properties first, then a place to stay on top. So that's a rare case. But with us, we have a track record. We have a good record of development. We involve every stage, before we come up with a project. Currently, we have a project along Riera Road behind Junction Mall. My two fellows, you can visit anytime. The project is one of a kind. The project has actually taken into consideration every step as given in the NEMA. See, the NEMA approval indicate everything in that particular project. It indicates the number of floors, the number of the houses, the amenities that are supposed to be there. So if a client wants to buy a house, we highly recommend you go through our documents. Actually, one of my roles is to link the clients to our lawyer, to link the clients to our directors, also to link the clients' lawyers to our lawyer. So when we are doing the links up, we share the documents, and you find out that sometimes a client will call and ask you that why is it and this, and I'm not understanding this. And these are clients who are in diaspora. So we'll tell them that it shows that the house will go 17 floors up. It has got this number of 1 bedrooms, this number of 2 bedrooms, and we have got these amenities. With that, the client will understand that indeed I'm buying a property that has got this and this. And like my senior counsel here said, I highly advise clients to go through the sale agreement. Actually talk to them, tell them before you sign the agreement, please take your time. Go through the sale agreement, see what you see the clauses that you don't like. Ask your lawyer to write to our lawyer if they can delete the clauses or maybe amend them so that to suit your need, so that at the end of it, you won't be here blaming the developers for for giving you what you didn't request, or maybe what you didn't demand from them. Okay. So it's about providing all the documents so that even before an investor puts his or her money, he know what he's going to take. Yeah. So basically, it's that. Okay, great. And Dr. we have the National Lands Commission, there's the National Housing Corporation, and all these bodies that safeguard the things around the land disputes. But there are cases where now, for example, in the issue of EAPCC, it looks like a case of a double allocation of deeds. How then is corruption, has it eaten up into the issue of land so much?
Yes, the challenge of corruption is there, but before I address it, I wish to clarify the issue of the physical. How do you get to know what is physically and legally approved? There is the zoning regulations for every area, and the planners have, and every town has the zoning regulations that indicates the plot sizes, that indicates the site coverage, that indicates the plot ratios. These plot ratios determine how high a building should go, how many levels. Sometimes people buy without knowing, and the levels are more than the levels that are approved. Sometimes people build the entire plot, yet the plot coverage should have left the spaces around so that even when a disaster happens, they cannot, firefighting, they cannot even get help. And then there is the areas that have like the riparian reserves, that the wetlands, they have been designated by NEMA or the planning laws or the survey laws to be areas that are not fit for building, that should be riparian reserves. They are not next to the rivers or wetlands. So you have to check, because you could have a very nice brochure telling you this is the best home, and then it's on a riparian land. Or you were told it's 17 floors or 20, and yet it's supposed to be 10 floors based on the planning law. So again, the planning regulations and the planners will be able to tell you, and the registered architects will be able to tell you. On the legal side, of course, we talked about what you should check: the rights for ownership and the registration, so that the titles are proper and the survey documents are proper. On the side of the economic side, you really have to look at the returns of your markets, of your investment, so that you know what you're buying. You're not just buying because people are paying 20 million. 20 million for what return in this market? When will you ever recoup it? Because people have wasted money. Can you even get tenants? What are the streams? Now, on the side of governance, yes, there is weakness in corruption, but I'm happy that the institutions have now safeguarded, like public lands, like he said in the Dongo report, even the inventories. The National Land Commission is required to do a public land inventory so that it is known. You can check what public lands are there, so that even if you're buying, you make sure you're not buying as a private land when it is public land, but you can counter-check the other reports that have been. The question of corruption is a question of integrity. But what makes corruption thrive? Weak systems, like we said, poor land information system. And then if there are no ways of surveillance or catching the people purporting it. So Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has also to work. We need to see people being held responsible. We need to see institutions held to account. And I like that EACC is now recovering land. NLC has done well, because the incidences of public land grabbing had gone down. But of course, there are people with impunity. Impunity should also be punished. So sometimes we are crying, but I think at times it has to be painful so that people don't grab road reserves, people don't grab playgrounds, people don't grab schools and hospitals. So some of it has to be painful. It cannot be called investment when it is endangering our whole society welfare.
Mm-hmm. Great. And let me just give you gentlemen a minute each for your final parting shot concerning this whole issue. There's the Mavoko, there's Lavington. You know, you have this Juru case, the the Mau Forest cases have been there like forever. What's your final parting shot concerning all these land ownership issues and also buyer awareness when getting a land and even building there?
I would say that my parting shot is that, one, use professionals. Cheap is expensive. As you try to cut costs and to look for shortcuts, you may end up burning your fingers. Number two, land buying process is a process. It's not a one-day activity or a 1 week or 1 month activity. It's a process, and our laws foresee a 90-day period where each party should be able to actually exchange their document and the registration should be able to start, etc. Number three, that we should all not forget to do our due diligence. Go to the ground, use the surveyors, find out whether there are beacons, whether there are maps registered against this title deed. The mutation maps are very important, and you doing your due diligence and asking around about whether this land is registered and owned is very important.
Mm-hmm. Great. Jim?
Okay, thank you so much. So my conclusion will be in this way: there are pitfalls before you buy a property. Identify the pitfalls that might bring issues at the end after buying a property. Second thing, there's no hurry in investment. Take your time, do your due diligence, do your search. Know that you'll get your money when you invest it in the right place. Last, do your due diligence. This one we will insist on this. Do your due diligence. We've seen a lot of cases happening, then people come and regret. Then fourth, don't skip any stage. Don't skip any stage when you want to buy a property. Involve everyone, including the professional drunkard. If they say this land, the Kiswahili, please take them serious and do your search. Yes. And finally, I'd like to invite everyone. You can visit our current project, Long Railroad, behind Junction Mall, Ngong Road. You can come and see what we offer. We offer 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. Then our new upcoming project will also come in next year. We also invite you come and see what we offer. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much. I think what I would want to advise Kenyans, avoid the surprises. I know people want to be secretive because they want to say they have done a deal and they want to hide it. You will not surprise anyone. You surprise yourself and shock yourself and lose. So the point is, be transparent, work with accountable systems, and follow the long route. It is the right route. The other bit is for our government and the state institutions. Land administration and land management and land governance is the core and the foundation of where development and wealth is created. I would want to see the leadership coming from the state now, seeing this as urgent and as a disaster. Let land management not be seen just as a side thing. Get the right people, the competent people, and as at now, I think the state should convene an industry forum where a new roadmap is charted that then grounds and assures and gives security to all these systems,